I'll welcome everybody to our second installment of our professional development learning series this summer. I'm Danny Rubin. I've met many of you, and some of you, some names are new, and that's wonderful too. We are based in Virginia Beach. Our company is Rubin. We provide online curriculum resources for business communication skills, helping students communicate professionally for college and career opportunities. One of the biggest things that we get at, and we'll talk about one example today, is not sending emails like text messages, teaching students the power of being appropriate and professional when they are pursuing opportunities and not being casual with the messages like they're talking to their friends or too often talking to you. Let me ask a quick poll of the group. Show me one example of how a student in the past year has addressed you in an email, like, hey, you, hey, miss, hey, dude. Tell us in the chat. Let's see what comes to your mind. How did a student address you inappropriately in an email this past year? Can you show me one in the chat? Yo, Miss Buck, Miss Candace, hey, buddy, can you do this? Yo. Hey, Ma, are you available to see me, with the R and the U? So we know that it's a problem across the country. And so our challenge is to give you the tools to help students be their most appropriate. And we're going to go through some of those lessons today through the context of mental health. We talk a lot about mental health through COVID. I feel like we're still sort of in COVID, right? We're never seem to be out of it, right? The cases are still there. Students are still coming and going from school. Teachers are still coming and going from school. It's not over. And it's taken a toll on all of us, and a great time to lift everyone's spirits and make students remember how much is still out there in front of them is this fall, kicking off a new school year, hopefully the best school year we've had in the past few years. And so I hope that you will take these ideas, these activities, these examples today, and that you will take them to heart and find ways to use them in all the various classes where you teach. And Bryce said it too. There's also no greeting, right? Sometimes they don't do any greetings, or the entire email is contained to the subject line. And it just, you think about how people are viewing our students from the outside looking in, and it's just not where we want to be. So we will first start off. We put together a great package of free exercises for mental health that we're going to cover today. Those of you who are new to us, this is what we like to do. We give out free resources. And so let me run you through what we're going to cover today and how you can have these. We're going to talk about how to feel better about yourself by giving others the spotlight, right? Learning how to show interest in people, and as a byproduct, we feel good about ourselves. How to be more confident as a public speaker. How to gain confidence after a quote rejection. How do you follow up when you get someone says no? How to tell a story of resilience, which it directly relates to mental health and learning to really look into ourselves for our best moments to tell the world who we really are. And also how to take a great headshot. How many of you have helped students take headshots before? Any hands up for headshots by chance? Learning how to look good in that photo, which gives you confidence. If you look good, you feel good. And then that photo can help in many different ways to help students pursue opportunities. So whether you've been to us before or you're brand new, okay, what I'd like to tell you is how to get that bucket of resources, okay? Please type right now the word interested in the chat and your email address. Interested and your email address for these resources I just mentioned, and we'll say it again at the end. And if you're new to our community, what we like to do is have a quick phone call to introduce ourselves and provide these resources to you, understand your classes, help you make sense of it so you can share it, not just with your students, but sharing it across your school, across your district, providing these resources as far as you'd like to take them. They're free. Okay, so if you're new to us and you've never had our stuff before, what you can expect is an invite on your calendar for 5 minutes tomorrow, Wednesday, so that our team can pass it along and walk you through it, and then you're on your way. Okay, so thank you to those who put their information. You can continue to do so. I'll mention it again at the end, okay, because we want these webinars to go beyond today. Yes, I want you to get your hour. I want you to learn a few things. but then I want you to use it. And it needs to go beyond just having the students watch this webinar with you. I want you to make it your own in your own lesson planning. Just to put it out in front of you, we will have another PD session on July 27th. That will be at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on career fair preparation. We have a lot of great resources for career prep and thinking outside the box to make the most of the opportunity. How many of you will be helping students with career fairs some point in this upcoming school year? Okay, so please join us and share that invite when it goes out. We'll put it out next week. Please, or in the email tomorrow and next week. So just look out for that. Please join us and let's have a great session on career fair preparation. Okay, if you're watching this on a recording, you can also have our mental health resources. Just send us an email to support@rubineducation.com. And also everybody here today who's with us live and spent the time, we're going to send you a certificate you can sign your name to right there, so you can have proof you were here. So keep an eye out for the certificate coming out to you tomorrow, as well as a recording from today. Hopefully it all records nicely. And then you'll see a link as well to our career fair session. So thanks to those who requested free resources. We will make sure you all have that. Now, what I'd like to do is jump us into our session today. Turn on my sound. We'll start with a video. So for those who are new to us, just a bit of background and the resource we're working out of today. So our company is called Rubin, and we have a broad online curriculum called Emerge, helping students sort of rise up and be ready for conversations for college and career as early as middle school. We want students to have the confidence and understand the fundamentals of being an appropriate, polished communicator as early as possible. And so what we're going to do today is draw from some lessons out of our platform, which students can access directly through the web, or it can integrate to a learning management system like Canvas, Schoology, or Blackboard. Just to show you some of the themes we're drawing from, these are some of our topics. Like I mentioned, email etiquette is a big one. We're going to be looking at a topic from our life skills unit, and also from our unit around diversity and inclusion, which we mentioned in our session last time. We're going to come at it from a different angle today. We do a variety of lessons for employability skills, including a focus on storytelling to prove your point. We're going to mention that in the context of mental health. We also do entrepreneurship communication, and understand what we are going to focus today and what we do generally is learning how to write and speak in these classic educational buckets like entrepreneurship. We talk about the communication around that, and also the leadership communication skills surrounding these various challenges. So we are just a big library of how-tos drawn from industry best practice. I'm a former TV news reporter and PR professional. So taking best practice from the world of communications, the world of journalism, and making it accessible for all students in the classroom. How do you communicate effectively to move somebody else to action and to truly make sure they understand your value? That's what we're learning in here. It's all coming out of industry best practice. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about this idea that when you do something good for others, you feel good yourself. Raise your hand if you believe that's true. If you do a good deed for somebody, you give them a present, or you do them a favor, or you help them out, how do you feel? Tell me in the chat. How do you feel when you do something good for somebody else? How does it, what does it do to your mental state, to your mood, to your attitude? How do you feel when you know you made somebody else happy? Can you tell me in the chat? Not a trick question. I just want to ask you. It does. Proud, I like that word, Randy. Proud, rewarding. However we were feeling it coming into that, if we know we made somebody else happy, we will feel the same way, because we know we did something good for somebody else. And so I want to give you a great class exercise that you could do at the start of the year and use over and over to help people to feel valued and appreciated. And in turn, the student will hopefully who did the deed will feel the same way. Okay, so let's watch a short video together. showing how students can interact so that we're showing that we care about each other and we care what someone else has to say. Okay.
Hi, my name is Danny Rubin, the founder of Rubin Education. So many times in our lives, we come face to face with somebody new and we start a conversation. And what comes next? What should we say to somebody new to win their respect and show that we care about what that person is doing in his or her life? Let's watch a scenario play out with two people who meet for the very first time.
Hey, good to see you. I'm Esmel Meeks.
Hi, Kevin O'Day.
Nice to meet you,
Nice
Kevin.
to meet you as well.
What do you do for work?
I'm a realtor. I help people buy and sell homes.
Awesome. How was your week?
This week has been absolutely terrible. I've had the roughest week I've had in a long time.
My week has been terrible. Let me tell you about it.
Oh, okay.
My train was
Sure.
5 minutes late, which made me 5 minutes late for a meeting. And I get back home, my car won't start. So then I'm 5 minutes late for a date with my girlfriend, and my girlfriend's all mad at me because I'm late for dinner.
Oh, wow, that does sound
And then we
tough.
get back home, we didn't take the dog out, and the dog sold the carpet. So my week was terrible.
Yeah, that sounds tough. So I'm sorry, man. Yeah, that's really tough.
Anyways, tell me about your week.
Okay, did you see Kevin's face during that networking exchange? Did he look unhappy to you, a little disappointed? That's because Esmel took the conversation away from Kevin and hogged the moment and had the spotlight. When Kevin instead wanted to share about his week, Esmel instead talked about his. The best networkers let other people talk and have the floor, and they listen. Let's see that scenario one more time and see how Kevin reacts now.
Hey, I'm Esmel Meeks.
Hi, Kevin O'Day. Nice to meet you.
Very good to meet you. What do you do for work, Kevin?
I'm a realtor. I help people buy and sell homes.
Awesome. How was your week?
You know what, Esmel? I'm glad you asked. It's been a really tough week, actually.
I'm sorry to hear that. What happened?
Clients entrust me with their homes and with the journey of buying and selling a home. And I had these clients that arrived from out of town. They came in a little late. We went to go see a home they were really in love with, and it was filled with water. And so they looked to me for an answer. I didn't have one for them. So it's been just a really rough week overall. I've had to take it. I've been very emotional about it, and I'm just not sure what to do nenext.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Kevin.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so let's back up for a second. Let's talk about that video now. Kevin's situation wasn't happy, but what did Esmel do? The second time around, Kevin said, I'm having a tough week. And that second time, what did Kevin do? What did he do? What did we talk a lot in our program? That's right. He stepped back and he listened. He asked a follow-up question. He said, what happened? Right? Tell me what happened. I want to understand it. I want to hear you. Right? I want to value what you're saying. This is your turn. This is your time. And even though Kevin isn't having the greatest day, he felt appreciated. And hopefully, as a byproduct, Esmel felt like he did a good deed because he let someone else really tell him how he felt. Now let's apply that to the start of the year. Okay, let's put it in the context of icebreakers. And we talked about this lesson 2 weeks ago at our session on inclusion because it allows for everybody to feel like they're included and their opinions matter. But let's look at it through the context of mental health too. Someone's coming in or having a tough day. They had a tough summer, a tough morning, whatever it might be. And it could be either student, but here's the activity, and we'll provide it in that Google Drive of resources that you requested. You pair the students off and you have them each get to know each other for about 3 to 5 minutes, where one student can only ask questions in that time and the other one can only answer. And then they switch roles and they both experience asking and answering, but it's not a back and forth. You have to give that first person that individual time and attention, and then they flip it and give it back to you. And the idea is that when you really stay in the conversation with somebody, you hear them, you ask questions, you're curious, you want to know more. It makes that person feel valued and included. And that would make you also feel like you did a good thing because you made somebody else feel good. And hopefully both sides feel positive and are in a good mental space after that exercise, especially at the start of the year when students are new to each other and they're in new classes. And this is a great icebreaker. How many of you would be willing to do this type of back and forth exchange at the start of your year? Any hands up for that, to try and put students together? So there's so many different lessons going on. Like here in Virginia, we have the workplace readiness skills. Across the country, there are soft skill or employability frameworks that you must adhere to, right? And when you're doing this type of exercise, which requires almost no prep, no paperwork, it's just paired off, you're covering that inclusion, self-representation, active listening, use of storytelling. There's so many good skills captured in this 5 or 10-minute exercise. And then the best part is you can do it over and over again throughout the year. It's so easy to do. I'm curious to know from this group, tell me in the chat, where would you use this type of an icebreaker exercise? Which class or program or time of day? Tell me in the chat, where would you use it? Because I want to make this practical for the group and really think about taking these ideas and making them real. Thank you, Colleen. Use it every day. And you could do it every day because you can keep mixing up the pairs and it really never ends. That's great. Thank you, Sindhu and Brandy. With new sophomores, great. Because just think about all the different skills that are going on in this 10-minute exchange. It's really everything we want to encompass with employability, right? And I can't stress enough the power of active listening. It's just, and being curious. This is what journalists do, right? You watch a journalist do an interview and they keep asking questions. They keep prying. They look around that corner. They look under that rock. They're curious. They keep digging. If everybody was trained to think that way, when they met new people, they would make so many friends. They'd make such a great impression. We would all feel better if we felt like someone else cared to know about us beyond just what our name is and, how you doing? That's great, Kathy. Entrepreneurship class, employ after getting back from work. How was your day? What did you do at work today? Interview skills class, JVG class. Make sure I got everybody. Personal and professional skills course and field studies, soft skills unit, FBLA state competition prep. That's right. Also, Bryce, thank you. This is great stuff for competition prep too. So if anybody's an advisor, think of it for that as well. So we'll provide you the resources, some guidance, some sample questions, that video, but I would love for you to start your year with that exercise. It's so easy. It gets students up and moving around and talking to each other, but taking it to a deeper place and frankly, pushing them out of their comfort zone to say, no, you have to stay in that person's world for at least 3 to 5 minutes. You're not allowed to talk about yourself and you can't just let the conversation sit there and grow stale. You have to keep thinking of things to say to them. And that's a skill they will use over and over in their lives at conferences and social events and networking events and elevators everywhere. That is truly a skill for life. So thanks for all of you for being game for that. Now, on the topic of speaking and talking to each other, let's talk about another mental health exercise, which is a little bit painful, a little uncomfortable, but a great outcome, which is critiquing how you sound. How many of you have ever seen yourself on camera or heard yourself record and say, oh, I can't stand the sound of my voice. I can't listen to myself. I can't watch myself, right? It's like, it's awkward, uncomfortable, right? And when I spent part of my career in television and also in radio, every day I'm having to listen back to myself. But let me put it to you this way. The people who improved the most in journalism were the people who were willing to, that's right, COVID did help us overcome that distance learning. That's true. Thank you, Janet. Thanks for being here. The people who got better the fastest in journalism were the ones who were willing at the end of the day to go watch their story over again, not just to say, well, look how great I am, but to say, how can I do it better, right? To sort of face the music. And we want the same thing for our students. And the best place to learn is while you're in school, middle or high school, or college, wherever it is you find them. So what we have here is a great checklist for how to improve your own voice. And so what we want you to do is students can record themselves either through their computer or you can do it in the classroom. And you could have them telling like a great story from their summer or really just have them go about a minute or so, just telling you a story, something interesting. But what you're really looking for is all those soft skills, those employability skills around their speaking. You need to take them through a checklist. Was the argument solid? Did it make sense? Did they trail off? Were they trying to go from point A to point B and they got lost somewhere in the middle? Were they saying like, and how many of you work with students on cutting out and and keeping track of that? That's another one of our activities, but I went with this one today. So make them realize in the course of 1 minute, you said 26 times. And they're like, oh, I had no idea. Or next time, maybe they'll be more mindful. Were they talking too fast? Were they, if the audience asked questions, how did they handle questions? Was there energy in their voice? Were they projecting? I talk a lot about this. Let me ask this group. Do you think right now I'm sitting or standing? Am I sitting or standing? What do you think? Everyone says standing. Why would you think that? What would suggest to you that I'm standing? Why would you assume right away? That's right. I do project better. So we want students to get out of the seat, out of their computer chair at home, or out of their desk, stand up straight, project, learn how to reach the person right in the back of the room. Was the student moving in a weird way? Was there a lot of swiveling? Were the hands glued to their sides? Were the hands way too busy up here? Until you go back and watch yourself, you're never going to know. Because in the moment, we're just too focused on not screwing up or remembering what we're supposed to say. And watching it back, it's like watching somebody else. It's like you have fresh eyes on your own performance. So now I say it's mental health because public speaking is one of the biggest fears that any of us have. But if we work through some of the skills and the qualities to be a great public speaker, we'll have more confidence the next time. And again, just like the previous activity with learning to talk to new people, if you have confidence to speak, that can open up new doors for students too. Even in a small room, a big room, an audience, learning how to talk to people and have command of your own abilities gives you a tremendous sense of positivity and confidence. And again, that's what we're after with these sessions today, with these topics today. So again, feel free to use this checklist. Feel free to record students, take them through it, and make them a little bit uncomfortable again, because on the other side of that is going to be progress, which you'll be able to see, and they'll feel good about that. If there are any questions about this particular topic, let me know. I'll keep an eye on the chat. Otherwise, I'll move on to our next one, and we will talk about, again, mental health comes in a lot of forms. And one of those moments is when we're feeling down because we were quote unquote rejected. How many of you have ever been rejected from a job or a college scholarship in your own life? You applied and you didn't get it. I should see everybody's hand up, mine too, because as they say in baseball, nobody bats 1,000 and nobody gets everything they want. And frankly, sometimes, isn't it the funniest thing, the thing that you thought you were so upset you didn't get, and then things tend to work out in a funny way, another way, and you end up with the job you really wanted or the opportunity you wanted, and you thought the one you were rejected from was like the end of your life, and you're devastated. But then it all seems to work out, and you're meant to go in a different direction. And one thing that we're big on in our program is providing students with templates, lots and lots of examples for how to handle tricky, challenging, awkward, difficult situations. And many of those happen through email. And one of those is you apply for an internship or a job and they write you back. And what's that first line that the employer says in that email or that letter? It's like, after careful consideration, right? Or we appreciate your applying. As soon as you see that first few words, what goes through your head when you say, after careful consideration, or we've received many talented applicants, what do you know is coming next? You're like, you know what? Let me just put this letter down. They all set you up nicely, right? But it hurts. It really hurts. At any age, it's like, how dare they not choose me? Don't they know who they're missing on? And we're going to talk about that in our next session. Oh, that's good, Candace. The hammer of disappointment. That is. It's like just boom, like a thud. But they sent a message. And these days, you're not going to get too many rejection letters. It's going to be through an email, and whether it's hopefully it came from a real person. And if it did, then there's only one true sort of answer there, which is to respond. But it's easy for the student, and I'm sure you've had discussions with students who are so upset and they would just let it go. They wouldn't answer. They'll just say, well, forget them. They don't want me. I don't want them. And they get the rejection and it just goes away. But what if the student learned to sort of, you can be upset, you can walk away from the computer, you can take a walk, you can kind of, work it out. And then you come back to the screen and you compose a message to thank the company or organization for the opportunity anyway. And there's a lot of strategy to that with mental health, but also just understanding the power of building a network. So we would say something to the effect of, thank you for letting me know about the name of the job or the internship. I understand your decision and I appreciate the opportunity to interview. Keep me in mind for future opportunities, even in a freelance capacity. I respect the work you do at the name of the company. I would like to contribute. And also if the student has a portfolio, a social media hashtag or a channel, so, keep an eye on me. This is where I put my latest stuff, right? And you can link them to whatever it is. Now, there's a lot of value to this, and we've talked about this idea before in previous sessions. Isn't it possible that the company goes with their another person for an internship, but then that person ends up going with a different company, or they end up not working out for whatever reason, and so they have to go back to the drawing pool and say, well, who else could we choose? And if, let's say there were 3 finalists and they choose one, and of the 2 they didn't choose, one of them wrote an email back and one of them didn't. Who do you think they're going to go back to? Of the 2 finalists who weren't chosen, the one who wrote the follow-up email and stood tall, or the one who just went away? Which one do you think the boss is going to talk to first? Tell me in the chat. So not only is it just good mental health to accept the fact that not everything is going to go our way, but it's how we handle it. That's just a great mental exercise and a sign of growth and maturity. And also, right, just on a practical level, thank you, Lori and Colleen, the person who writes the email back stands a chance at not just, maybe it's not even this particular company. Maybe the boss is like, there were these 2 students who were great. I could only choose one. And they're at lunch with a colleague from a company down the street, and that company's looking for an intern. And so the boss says, you know what, I got somebody great for you that I just couldn't take, but you should take a look at them, right? So the world works in very mysterious ways, or maybe not so mysterious. And it's all about teaching students from an early age. You're building a network of people who know about you and would try to support you and promote you into opportunities. So even if you don't get that first thing, things can come back around in funny ways. So it's going through that mental exercise of saying, it's okay. This is not the end. You have so much more in front of you. And also learning to swallow that disappointment and send that positive message from a practical networking standpoint. So for mental health and also just functionally keeping yourself alive for opportunities, there's so much value in teaching students how to stand tall in disappointing or depressing moments. Because I know when it happens for all of us, we say like, well, that was it. That was the best. That was the number one thing. And if I don't get into that school, or if I don't get that job, or I don't get that internship, like it's all over. I'll never recover. And that's where our head goes first, because we're so focused on landing it. And we think it's all that matters. And then we realize later on that there was so much more out there. It's almost like, when we're in college and we worry about our GPA, we worry about our major, we think it's like these are end all be all. So I only had this percent GPA, or I should have done this major, not that major. But as you look back on your life, did any of those things really matter? Tell me in the chat. Like, do you still get asked today what your GPA was freshman year, or did it really matter what your undergraduate major was? It's like we put so much emphasis on the things that are when we're young and they're right in front of us, and we look back and we're like, all that matters is that we got through it, right, to the other side. And it's hard to see that as students, and I get that, but these are opportunities to teach that. And I saw a comment I wanted to, Kenna says, even as a seasoned professional, I'm often shocked and flattered when I receive follow-ups, not just from interviewees, but students who have completed my classes. So there you go. Because it's not common. It takes extra effort, right? And it just shows that you're willing to go further and farther than everybody else. And look, life's not fair. And you could be the absolute best internship candidate and the boss is going to hire his niece or nephew, because it's just how it goes sometimes. And it's nothing you could have done differently other than just hold your head high and stay in there. What do they call a doctor graduate at the bottom of his class? A doctor. Well, yes. And we hope that over the time after medical school, he learned everything that he wasn't getting right on his exams, right? Before you go make him your doctor. No one asked me my GPA except when I apply for teaching jobs. Okay, fair. But the further away you get from school, the less these things matter. But in the moment, they have such importance. And these are opportunities to help students gain perspective on what really matters. All right, now let's switch gears. Hold on, I need to turn that back on. I often circle around these themes of storytelling because we can use it on so many levels. And today's focus is mental health, because we need to make the most of the traumatic, oftentimes, situations we've been placed in, how difficult it's been through COVID. I mean, I'd like to think many of us think we're probably on the kind of heading away from that COVID era, but it's still there. And there's still opportunity to leverage what we did in our lives during that era to show the type of mental fortitude that we have when times get tough. And even if it's not a COVID example, this will just give you some food for thought. Okay, so I want you to think right now about your students from this past year. And I want you to try to think of one student in your mind, just pick one out that has a great story of resilience. It could have been through COVID or something else going on through schoolwork or at home, or even just working through a difficult subject matter where they were getting poor grades and they worked hard and got better grades, or they really became more confident and grew in their role in a student organization. I want you to think of one student, just hold it in your mind, who showed you that they are resilient, that they can be tough, and they can push through something that at the start of the year seemed insurmountable. I'll give you one example of a COVID story, because what I want you to think about with cover letters and interviews and competition prep like extemporaneous speaking is I want your students to become storytellers, and I want them to share stories of hard work through their own efforts or through their team or the club or a project. Stories help to sell our value better than saying that I have a lot of great skills and I'm very hardworking. So let's look at this quick story together. It could be for an interview, it could be for a cover letter, it could be for competition, but it shows resilience. Okay, dear Mr. or Ms., we're the hiring manager. On April 17th, 2020, my parents sat me down and gave me a hard truth. Due to the economic situation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, both of my parents were laid off from their jobs. My dad is an electrician and my mom is a front office manager for a dental practice. My dad told me, I know you're busy with school, but if you could find a part-time job, it would help our family financially. Right away, I knew what I had to do. As the oldest of 4 children, I went online and looked for local job opportunities. I found one restocking shelves at Acme Grocery. Since late April, I've worked part-time at Acme, earning $9 an hour and usually clocking in 20 hours a week, alongside my honors classes and responsibilities as vice president of Spring High School Computer Club. The pandemic has pushed me in ways I didn't expect, but I will rise to the challenge. My name is John Doe. I want to be your next intern at Tech Corporation. As I demonstrated above, I battled through tough circumstances and used those moments to improve rather than feel sorry for myself. I know I'll bring the same attitude and effort to the Tech Corporation team. Now, I ask this question when I tell the story. Go to the chat and give me a word. Give me a characteristic, a quality, an adjective that would describe this young person. What word comes to mind? How would you describe this person? In the context of mental health too, resilient, determined, committed, motivated, and all of those circle around having strong mental health and being confident and positive despite the circumstances. Thank you, Candace and Sindhu and Lori and everybody for putting words. And you'll notice that none of those words are in here, right? You didn't see a sentence full of adjectives, which most cover letters or interviews or extemporaneous speaking, they all have like, I'm committed, I'm responsible, I'm loyal. We don't say that. We just let the story do all the explaining. And what we're also doing here is we're having students take a hard look inside themselves and say, can I share a moment where I demonstrated strong mental health, strong sense of resilience, of overcoming obstacles. We want students to have that story in their back pocket. They can use it in interviews, applications, scholarship applications, college applications, all over the place. It all should come from a place that says, I have strong mental health. I cannot be knocked down. Challenges will come. I will work through them. Who would not want to hire a young person who can speak from that place and say, I know who I am. I am not scared by a challenge. I will fight and face down whatever comes at me. That would be the most sought after young person for any opportunity. And we all have stories. It's just a matter of thinking about it in this way. I'm curious, and no one has to do this, but if I asked you to think of a student over the past year, you don't have to name names, but if you'd like to share a brief example of what a student went through in the classroom, in the community, whatever it is, I'd love to see an example in the chat if you'd like to, just so the group can understand what we're trying to get at here. What we're driving at is everybody's got a story, right? Everyone has a story, but too often we don't tell our story. And we cover it up with words like, I'm motivated and I'm resilient and I'm a hard worker and I'm a leader, but it doesn't really connect. It doesn't stick. What sticks is stuff like this. So I would love for you, if you're thinking about your new year, have students learn to talk to each other face to face, put them in those positions, make them do active listening, make them learn how to be curious. And then when it's time to talk about ourselves, help them to identify a great story they can share from the past 6 months, the past year, somewhere in the recent past, where they can say, I fought through a challenge. And here's a clear example of that. I'm not just going to tell you that I did it. I'm going to show you that I did it. And in that way, I'm going to show you that I have the mental capacity, the mental fortitude to know that whatever you give me on the job, I am not going to wilt away. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to sit there and get nervous or just simply not want to do it. You can throw me anything and I'm going to handle it because I just showed you through that example that I am ready for anything. And the beautiful thing about it is that all students can do this. This is not reserved for the highest achievers or the seniors. This is for everybody. This is for the every corner of the school, the transition population. Middle school students can start learning the power of stories. This is for everybody. And that's why what we believe is we're really trying to create opportunity for everybody through how we communicate. And it doesn't have to be reserved for just the select few, but anybody can get through that door if they know how to talk to others and talk about themselves. Let's see. Candace said, I assigned a turning point essay at the beginning of the class, not expecting the stories I received. 2 had me crying. 1 student came home to her entire house burned to the ground. No one was hurt. Second told the story of messing up academically, coming back, looking forward to making her mom proud, only to have her mom die 2 weeks before graduation. Whoa, those are very heavy stories, and they're incredibly emotional, and they have all the seeds of what I'm saying. And thank you for sharing that very much. I'm sorry, I think Candace wrote that, and I'll read Suzanne's in a moment. These are very heavy stories, and again, I want you to think, well, if students don't have stories on this level, that's okay too. It can just be something as simple as, I was having trouble with my math class. I got a tutor. I came after for extra help. I went from a C- to a B+, or it can be something smaller too. I don't want you to have to think in such huge terms, but these stories are very moving. Suzanne said, I had a student whose family was evicted from their home and she really struggled. She was recognized as a state essay winner. Recognition helped her realize she can do anything, that the struggle is not going to keep her down. Amazing, amazing. And so the more that we can have students sharing their story out there with strangers who are evaluating them, the further they're going to go. And the better they're going to feel about themselves, and to say, even though I've had a tough go of it, life has not always been fair. I can still do whatever I want. Anything is still possible because I still control myself and how I feel. So I hope that you'll see this as, again, all of those work readiness skills, the self-representation, the creativity, the storytelling, all of it is woven into this. And on top of all of that is a sense of being proud of yourself and a sense of strong mental health. Thank you both for sharing those stories. That's very helpful for the group to see, and incredibly inspiring just by skimming it in the course of this session. The amazing thing about stories is that when you hear a good one, you never forget it, right? You could sit through 100 interviews and everybody says I'm hardworking, a natural born leader, all these things. And if someone tells you a story, that's all you're going to remember the rest of the way. We just had a student in Georgia use that approach, the story approach, for scholarships, about how he worked through a really tough project during the course of his calendar or year in the classroom. He won $5,000 in scholarships across 5 different scholarships by telling a great story in his application. He just kept winning and winning and winning because everyone else is saying, pick me, I'm great. And he's saying, pick me, here's an example of why I'm great. And the committee just over and over kept going to him. So these skills are powerful. And not only do they provide great sense of mental health, they get the job done. They get you to be chosen more often than not. This is great. Let me read one more from Lori here. I have a student whose parents have been telling him for years he was not able to get a job or make it in the community. She had the school hold him back a year, retake his classes. He graduates, passing all his classes and state tests, then able to get a job as an auto tech. Now he's at a dealership and he's deaf. Wow. Unbelievable. It's a great story. And so what we try to provide is a structure for that story. You introduce a challenge in the story, then you talk about how you work through the process of overcoming the obstacle. And then that third part is the outcome, the successful outcome of, through your hard work, you're able to do X or Y. And that is a great sort of half-page, powerful demonstration of who you are. Thank you all for sharing. These are great examples. We're going to save these out of our webinar today and hold on to them for future examples, because I love the power of telling stories, and it never gets old. One last thing I want to share, and then we'll wrap up and maybe give you a few minutes back, is, again, feeling good about yourself is taking a great headshot. And I know some of you have told us before, I asked a question earlier, how many of you have helped students with their headshot? And we want to provide you some guidance, some best practices for headshots. I have an example down here of yours truly showing what we want to see. We want to see good lighting. We don't want to have anything distracting in the background. We want to be dressed appropriately, right? Because we don't want to use a Facebook picture or an Instagram picture. You know, haven't we all seen this? Raise your hand if you've seen someone takes a photo of themselves and they've like cropped the person next to them, but you see like that person's shoulder. Anybody seen that picture before across LinkedIn or social media? It's like, yeah, the photo looked good of the person, but it's clear they like tried to crop out the person next to them, but you can still see a part of their body. And like, that is distracting. And that's not what you want in a portfolio, on LinkedIn, in an application. It has to be a standalone picture. So a great day, a great activity in the classroom is, say, we're doing headshots today. You could have, a photography club in school, even come and take the pictures, or you can, bring a camera from the school, set up a really basic backdrop that doesn't have a lot of distraction. It can be a solid color or blurred out in the back, so no one's looking around at the side of a poster or trying to read a word, or there's something going on back there and you just can't seem to focus on the person. Keep the focus on the person's face, sort of like chest up, have the students dress nicely, and take several versions, and the students can decide with your help which one they think is the best. And then they have a great picture that they can use over and over again when they are applying for things or showing themselves off. For the teachers who have done this before with students, where have they put their headshot? Tell me in the chat, where does it go? Where does it live? Where would people then see their picture once it's created? Because this is like, we say don't judge a book by its cover, but we do it. And how we look in that picture, how our first email looks to somebody, or how we interacted with them that first time face-to-face, like those things matter. And right or wrong, we make snap decisions. So again, if you don't mind, or if like if you've done headshots before, where do you have students put the headshot? Is it Outlook, Canvas, Google? Right. So it could be like their little profile picture too, which is what everybody's going to see before they even read the message from the person. They're going to see their picture. So it matters so much. And giving somebody the chance at a great picture because they had your guidance and your support, and they didn't just do it on their own or grab some random photo, but there was an intentional activity that'll make them feel really good about themselves and feel like they are more competitive for these opportunities because of how they look in that picture. You know, we all know that when we look good, we feel good. And so just one more way to make students feel confidently about themselves by how they are presenting who they are to the outside world. Now, I want to recap from the beginning the items that I mentioned at the start. Some of the folks came a few minutes after. I want to reiterate the resources made available. So we put together a Google Drive folder of everything we just covered today, resources and guides for the topics we just discussed. So again, it's about bringing this back to your school and taking it out of this webinar and making it accessible to you and your students and giving you things to play with as you build your own lesson plans for this fall. So if you'd like these resources and you missed it at the jump, go to the chat, type the word interested and your email address. And if you're new to the Rubin community, our goal is to chat for just a few minutes on Wednesday. You'll get an invite from us, and you can, if the time's not good, just reply back and change the time. It's very casual, especially in the summertime. And we will pass it along, explain it to you, make sure you have what you need so you can go off and teach these lessons in your own way. It's very important that I say, like, giving you suggestions, giving you ideas. You are professionals. You know what you're doing. Want to just give you things to use and modify and make your own. That's the best way I can put it. Okay. And then again, join us on the 27th, Wednesday, the 27th, 11 a.m. Eastern, for a session on learning to tackle career fairs and help give students a great plan before the career fair. We're going to focus more on what you do to prepare than even in the moment itself, right? Because preparation is more important, right? In so many things, like how you get ready for that moment will dictate how well you do in that moment. And that's what we're going to focus on. Also, if you're watching on a recording, you can still have the same Google Drive resources. Send us an email to the email in red, and everybody's going to get a certificate on Wednesday showing you were here. So you get your credit, even though we're a little bit shy of an hour, we'll still count it as a full hour. And you can get a few more minutes back in your glorious summer on July 12th. Are there any other questions or comments about our session today before, or things coming up before we go? In fact, actually, while I have just one more minute, let me tell the group that how many of you are familiar with our virtual internship webinar series in the fall? Any hands up? How many of you have been to our virtual internship series in the fall? So every academic year, twice a month, typically, we do a webinar where we do an interview with somebody from a different occupation every other week. We've covered everything from lawyers, doctors, marketing professionals, engineers, people in the trades, everything. And what I encourage you to do, I'll put it in one more time. Click on that link right there. Go to our YouTube channel, check out all 30 of our previous conversations, subscribe to that channel. So when we put new recordings out, you'll always know. And then we're going to put out our new schedule for the fall and spring of this upcoming academic year. We'll do that probably early August. We're still pulling together our session. And if there are any occupations that you'd like to see us cover, throw it in the chat right now. We are filling out our spring right now of determining which jobs and which topics do we go after. If there's something you really think students deserve to know about, or they're asking a lot about it, put it in the chat right now. Give us an idea, because we are open to suggestions. We want to deliver topics that you want, that you would attend. These are live 45-minute sessions. Students get to ask questions, and then it goes on YouTube. So if there's an occupation you're interested in, thank you, Lori, CNA. We're definitely going to do more nursing related jobs this coming academic year. It's very popular. Any others, you feel free to put them in there. Pathology, it's great because we want to hear from you. We want to give you what you truly need so students can get to know a person in that occupation directly. Even if they don't live in your community, they can visit them through this live engagement and get a chance to actually ask them questions, which is a lot of fun. Genetics, nurse practitioner. So thank you all for that. I want to appreciate everybody being here, being with us, participating in the chat, sharing stories in the chat. It really makes it more meaningful for us when we have a lot of engagement and it's not just a lecture. So we appreciate you and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. And for those who requested materials, just keep an eye on your email and your calendar later today. Okay, and just be in touch with us through tomorrow. So thank you again. And now go enjoy your Tuesday.